What's going on, people? I would like to welcome all of you to another Q11 edition of the Talk to Q radio show. My name is Quincy, and this is my show. And with the Q11s, what I like to do is interview people to expose my audience to new things. I talk to authors, entrepreneurs, entertainers, counselors, other podcasters, and sometimes just your everyday person who just has something to say about a particular topic. So it's an opportunity for you to get to know these people up and close and learn their story. What sparked the passion to choose a certain career, or what inspired them to write that book? Or why is this person so opinionated about a particular topic? So just sit back and enjoy the show, and please be encouraged to share. A lot of my guests, much like myself, kind of do their thing by word of mouth. So the more that you share, like, or comment on a social media post, then the more you can help me grow the show. And it also gives more support to the people that I bring on the show who are looking to get their services, products, and talents out to the masses. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. This show is from 2015. It's actually the very first Talk to Q radio show ever done via video, but it never aired. I was producing audio-only podcasts at that time, but my guest that I was interviewing wanted to do a face-to-face because she felt more comfortable that way as opposed to a phone interview. So I obliged. And now this is the first time this video will air, 6 years later. I interviewed a young lady by the name of Esosa E. She was known for quite a few things at the time, from fashion designing to acting, but she also wrote a book called Got Veg: How to Thrive on a Plant-Based Diet. She was actually probably the first vegan I'd ever met. We discussed all of that and more in this interview. So sit back and relax, and I'll take you down memory lane way before I grew out this gray beard. This is May 21st, 2015, episode number 483, my very first video interview on the Talk to Q radio show with Miss Esosa E. Enjoy. Okay, so you've accomplished so much in your career that I don't know where to start. Did it all start with fashion? I mean, you worked as a freelance fashion designer prior to getting into film, right? So can you tell us how fashion design and modeling springboarded into film?
Right. It's a really kind of weird roundabout story. I guess the best way to sort of sum it all up is that I never really actually planned to get into film or acting. I actually, when I was younger, everyone knew me as the girl who wanted to be a fashion designer. That's what I was passionate about. I used to make clothes for my Barbie dolls. I used to make clothes for my friends. I used to sell stuff. And when I was in high school, I got introduced to acting in a really roundabout way. Like, I was in choirs and other things, and then all of a sudden these drama kids were like, hey, we need someone to audition for this play or whatever. And I went and auditioned, got the role of Tituba in the Crucible. And the weirdest part was that I got nominated for an award at the Kennedy Center, and it was my first time acting, didn't know anything about acting. And so I was kind of like, this is kind of interesting, right? So I went to college with majoring in fashion design, but I had this experience that sort of made me think, well, maybe I should find out what this whole acting thing is about and all this theater stuff, you know? So basically, while I was in college, I was doing like several fashion shows a year, and I was, doing my fashion training. But then I started I was actually the president of Black Theater Productions. I helped put on plays. I started doing all these short films, so it kind of just, and then one day I just woke up and it was like, I guess I'm also an actress, because I got my first role off Broadway in this show called Platanos and Collard Greens. I think it's still running, actually. I was in it for a couple of years. So I had a paying theater acting job while I was still in college. So it kind of just took over my life, like slowly but surely. As I was studying in college, it became clear to me that I was also really passionate about storytelling. And I guess for me as an artist and as an artist that wanted to say something and have an impact, I started to feel like I loved fashion so much, but I felt like there were some limitations with what I could say with the medium. And I kind of I liked the combination of fashion and film. So even for my thesis project back then, I did like a fashion film. And I also was really concerned with how people that look like me were depicted in film images, and these films were going all over the world,
Exactly.
and they were the only representation of what we were supposed to be. And I just felt like I wanted to be a part of storytelling that was going to push the boundaries a bit and open up more discussion about just showing different parts of life. Like, we need all of the stories. I'm not saying one is bad or that, you know, one is worse than the other, but we just need a wider variety of stories about Africans and African Americans and the whole, and quote unquote, Black experience. You know what I mean? Because there really is no like one Black experience.
Right.
So that's kind of what got me like really amped about it, because I was like, man, like, it's just like, if you can tell a powerful story, and there's so much history, there's so many stories that haven't been told. And one thing that I'm really excited about with film and with the projects that I've been involved in is that I've been involved, or at least I've had the sort of the goal of being involved in a lot of projects that sort of move the African diaspora forward in terms of filmmaking, meaning they're not exactly African films, but they're not exactly American films, but there's sort of this new genre that speaks to a generation like me who was, first generation born in America. So I have parents who are from Nigeria, but I was born here in the States. So
Right.
I have my foot in both worlds. And it's sort of like there's this whole group of us living in Europe, you're living in America, that have have other stories that haven't really been told. And so, like, the show that I'm a part of in African City is one of those things that sort of like speaks to that group. Yeah, so I'm excited about it.
All
Yeah.
right, and I definitely want to talk about that. I mean, because you've written and directed several films, and you received several accolades for that, including being named one of five African filmmakers to watch, and you won the best short at the Nigerian Entertainment Film Festival. But I do
Yeah.
want to discuss the role that you mentioned in the series An African City. Now, it's been described as like the African version of Sex in the City, so to speak. And the
Right.
show is about five women who return to Ghana looking for love in a country ruled by men. What has been your experience as far as filming the show? What's that been like, and working with the other cast members?
The experience has been great. I mean, the coolest part about doing the show was getting to have the experience of going to Ghana and basically living there for like a month or two. You know, I'm about to go again, and it's just, I really enjoy Ghana. I had such a great time. I actually like had a lot of downtime, so I had a lot of time to party and like explore. It was great. So I mean, I just really, I mean, I can't say enough about it. I love the experience of being in Ghana. The other cast members, the thing that's so funny about the whole thing is that the girl who plays Sade, Nana Mensah, we actually went to acting conservatory together
Okay.
um, years ago. So it's just like this weird full circle moment,
Hmm.
because I know her work so intimately. And then once you've been in a conservatory with somebody, you know a lot of their business, and at least you know them a little bit as an artist, you know?
Hmm.
So it's really cool to work with her again, and like to see how we've both evolved over the years, because it's been many years since we studied. But I think that that's cool. The other girls I didn't know before we did the show, but it's been wonderful working on it with all the clothes and all the stuff. It's been great. It's been fun.
Okay, okay. And a quick side question because I happen to know of a 13-year-old
Mhm.
who wants to get into acting someday. And
Mhm.
as far as college is concerned, now you went to what, Cornell, right?
I did.
And what were you, did you study anything regarding theater in college or?
So I studied a lot actually, and I think it's really funny that you asked that question, just because I'm like very I've always been the type of person that like gets my way in terms of my education, because I really don't believe I should be studying things that I'm not interested in.
Hmm.
So when I found out that I had this love for theater, I just try to make all of my electives sort of support that, even though I had my core major stuff in fashion. So I studied the history of Black film from Birth of a Nation to the present. I studied Black theater. I studied all of the Black theater movement, everyone from Amiri Baraka to, I mean, I studied everything. Like, I
Right.
just sucked everything in. And then I also took some acting classes, and then because I had so many of my fashion credits done, I was able to do study abroad at British American Drama Academy too. So I went to London and studied a little bit there. So I was always like trying to find ways to like pursue, just learn more about everything I was interested in. I mean, even outside of my curriculum, for 2 years, I did training in Meisner technique, which is a form of acting training. So I was just like,
Okay.
how much can I absorb and how much can I train? And I think that's one thing that young people forget about, because nowadays we live in a society that makes it feel like, oh, I'm just gonna just come up. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna
Right.
blow up tomorrow. And it's like, no, honey, like that's not the way it works. Like
Exactly.
I put in so much time of like just training and just like honing, because I really wanted to be someone who had a career and not just someone who just had a like a good break for a moment. I wanted to have skills. And so I really took it seriously and I trained for many years. And then even after that, I had like a coach for a while, like you just keep sharpening the skills. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing for someone who is starting out is, just just be open to exploring. I mean, I think
Mhm.
everyone, not everyone that obviously wants to be an actor ends up being an actor, but the good thing is that it may lead you to some other creative path. Like for me, I realized that I'm the type of personality that needs to be in control to some degree. So like I was really interested in getting into producing and to filmmaking because I like to be able to create my own content. I don't want to wait around for other people to give me a green light. And I think that more and more you're seeing that the talents that are the most relevant in entertainment are the people who are producer, writer, actors, or they have multiple talents. And it's
Right.
important because it makes you less indispensable. First of all, you can't fire the producer and that lead actress and the writer. You can't do that. Like Mindy Kaling could not be outed from her show. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? She is the show.
Right.
So it's like it's cool to explore acting, but it's also cool to if that person had any inclination to write or to shoot stuff, I would tell them to also explore that, because I think it all goes hand in hand nowadays.
Okay.
um, but it's about learning your craft, taking the time to really immerse yourself in it and really get as good as you can if you're serious about it. If you feel like, okay, I'm serious, I want to deal with this, then you got to really learn your craft, and then you have to be prepared for rejections. I get rejections every day. I actually laugh about it. But I get rejections about all kinds of things all the time. But I'm so like the thing about me that's really interesting is that I do have kind of a thick skin in that I'm very persistent. So you can tell me no, and I might even try again, like because that's like my personality. But for some people, they hear no and they get, you know what I mean? They get really upset about it.
Exactly.
So it's really hard. You have to kind of figure out who you are, and it can be a really tough business because a lot of people are going to tell you no, or they're going to try and tell you that because of the way you look or because of the way you anything talk, who knows, that you're not going to make it, and you kind of have to tune it out. I mean, I had people who were saying a lot of things to me about because they just didn't understand. The other thing is that if you're really different and if you don't kind of fit into a box that everybody else has been in before, people also
Hmm.
don't know what to do with you. But you have to have the tenacity to say, no, this is me, this is what I do, and I'm not going to change who I am just to fit into your box. For me, like at the beginning, a lot of people were like, "Oh, you probably won't work that much because your hair is natural and da da da." And I'm sure that I went on some auditions and they were like, "Oh, we can't deal with,
Right.
whatever." But I didn't even really pay attention to that. I just focused on the people who were wanting to hire me and knew that I had something of value to contribute to their production. So it's kind of like putting the blinders on to anybody who's going to say you can't do it. Once you make the decision, you got to stick to it. You just got to try to be the best you can, and then you got to hold on, and like, every no is like, okay, one step closer to a yes. Like, you know.
Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I will definitely make sure she watches this.
Cool.
And now, as far as an African city, now the show really displays a side of Africa that a lot of the world don't get to experience. They just don't get to experience it. The clothing, the music, the artwork, and more. Why was it important that that was one of the focal points of the show to display that side of Africa?
Well, it's just we just have been inundated, especially in America. I think even in Europe, I just feel like it's anywhere really in the West where you get inundated with these images of Africa that are really one-sided. It's always about the poverty and the need, and Africa needs aid, and Africa needs this. And it's
Right.
really, I mean, I really just so appreciate any project that starts to bring to light for people that there are tons of Africans with money. There are tons of Africans that are dressing up. We go out, we party. There are nice, really awesome clubs that you go hang out at. You know what I mean? Like there's a life there that people just, I think people automatically, because of all the media stuff that's been like pummeled at us, we automatically associate Africa with poverty. And it's like, no, no, no. There's so much more going on there. And there's so many amazing artists and musicians and fashion designers. And that's the one thing that's really cool about An African City, that she was able to, at least we were able to bring into the first season, a bunch of designers from Ghana and from around the continent. I was a part of actually finding those designers, and then she was able to get some really great musicians to do some music for the thing. And then I think it really opened people's eyes because they were like, wow, look at all these places they're going to hang out at. And those are all places in Ghana that you could actually go to hang out at. So it's like they realize, oh my God, it's a real city. And there are people living fabulous lives there. And I think we need more of that because
Right.
because I really don't like the I really have never liked the idea that Africa needs aid, just because I just feel like Africa is such a rich continent, and then each country has its own each country is so rich. I mean, the people are so productive and so creative and
Hmm.
so innovative, and it's just like we just need we don't need anything from anyone else. I just think like we need to focus on being empowered ourselves and showing what we're capable of,
Right.
rather than this narrative of, oh, please help us. I just don't think that that's a narrative that needs to be continued anymore.
I understand that completely because, the media paints a picture, and nine times out of ten, most people believe it. So it's great being able to tell your own story. And
Yeah.
that's another advantage is social media has now opened up the world to all of us. So how can you and your peers as filmmakers take advantage of that worldwide exposure that you now have? I know with YouTube is one of the venues you use.
Yeah. Yeah, YouTube is huge. Vimeo is huge. And then there is like, I mean, so many platforms now where literally you can upload your content. You can even set a price. If you bring your audience, you have so much control nowadays. There really is no excuse as a content maker to not get eyeballs on your film. Um, with the last short that I made, I mean, it was like within a few months we had like 10,000 people had watched it online, and it's like this is so
Wow.
cool because, and I've experienced it also because I'm a health blogger. Like, I mean, I have people that buy my books in Germany, in Australia. It's so cool. It kind of blows my mind sometimes because
Hmm.
you're like, wow, the internet really just doesn't have a lid on it. So we need to stop thinking so small of like, okay, only my hometown, or only my country. Like
Right.
it's like the world is just so wide open right now, and I feel like it's the perfect time for entrepreneurs and for creative people who want to like get content out there or get new products out there that are being, especially that are being sold online, because it's just there's so many ways for you to do it and reach people. If you use the social media to like build your audience around your cause, it's really easy.
I think it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I agree with you because the first time I got a caller from overseas on my shows from Australia,
Oh,
it
cool.
just blew my mind,
Yeah.
that someone overseas was listening to this show. So
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. You're right. There isn't a lid that's on the internet at all.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's talk about your healthy lifestyle. You're a vegan. Can you define that for the listeners? Is it simply just avoiding meats, or is it more to it?
Okay, so this is part of why I wrote my new book, because I realized I've been blogging since 2009, but I realized that so many people actually didn't know the answers to these basic questions. It's really important just to understand the distinction. So a vegetarian is somebody who eats plant-based meals, but also incorporates dairy. So they may incorporate milk or cheese, and they may eat desserts that have milk or cheese or eggs in them
Okay.
even. A vegan is someone who avoids all animal products together. So that means they only eat fruits, nuts, seeds, vegetables, maybe grains too. But they don't do any dairy. They don't do any meat at all. So no kinds of dairy, no kinds of meat. Or no kinds, and some vegans are very strict. So they believe that bees are technically a part of that. So some people avoid honey.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, I'm not as strict about honey because I feel like honey is very healing. And like, if I have a sore throat, whatever, I'm gonna have honey. So that's me. But
Hmm.
some vegans are very strict about that. They don't want any honey. They don't want any animal products in anything. And then there's raw food. Raw food takes it even more a step. That's where I'm in. I'm in the land of the extreme. Um, raw food is like eating foods that are not cooked above a certain temperature, basically not heavily cooked, so that you are eating food that has all the life force and enzymes and nutrients intact.
Hmm.
And it's vegan. There are some people who are raw who are also sort of more vegetarians because they eat raw dairy, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Um, but most people who do raw are also just vegan. So that means they don't do any animal products. So it's just nuts, fruits, vegetables, seeds. And then they also don't eat cooked food. So my thing is, I've been, I was 100% raw for a couple years when I first started it. And then I started to give myself the flexibility to eat cooked vegan if I needed to eat it or if I was traveling or whatever. But I prefer to eat very high raw. I live in California now, and now that I live in California, it's like vegan utopia. So it's really easy for me to get everything, and the weather
Right.
is nice. So it's easy for me to eat like that. But when I was on the East Coast, I wanted to have soup and I wanted to have warm things sometimes. And I was like, it's okay. Like, I shouldn't feel like I need to, like, I have a problem with, I feel like diets should be like, I try to avoid being rigid. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
The idea of having too many rules, I think the whole point of a lifestyle should be to enhance your energy, enhance your health,
Right.
but it should also enhance your happiness, and it should be flexible. It should be flexible enough that you could go anywhere and you could get the best quality of whatever's there and be okay. And that's kind of where I'm at with it now, in that, like, if I'm traveling and I'm going to Africa, I may not be able to get a whole bunch of great raw stuff that I like, but I should be able to adapt and, like, okay, I can eat this vegan stew or whatever. There are certain things for me that I won't touch with a 10-foot pole anyway, though. Like, I don't eat processed food. That's just a rule. And I feel like that's the major rule that most people need to start living by if they want to have better health,
Yeah.
maintain the healthy body weight, not contract any of these crazy diseases. You got to let go of the processed food, period. Like, the whole food diet is where it's at. And that whole foods basically means it shouldn't be coming from a box. You should know exactly what it is. There shouldn't be chemicals in it that you don't know
Right.
how to spell. Like, I don't eat any of that stuff. I also don't eat bread or rice. Like, grains don't really work for me because I was raw for so long. My body doesn't respond well to them, so I just leave them alone. But yeah, but like, it's interesting because so those are the different levels, and there's ways that you can use that. Even if you were a meat eater, right? You could still be a very healthy person if it was right for you, if it felt good for you, and you were eating meat that was, if you knew where your meat came from, because that's the
Right.
big problem. The problem with America is that you don't know where half the stuff comes from. Nowadays, they're genetically engineering salmon. They don't even label it. So what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to protect our family from getting cancer and or whatever else we could contract from
True.
eating this food if we don't even know where it's come from? So it's really important to try to, if you're going to eat meat, you need to know where you got it from. It needs to be organic, needs to be grass fed, all that stuff. And I believe everything in moderation. Like, I feel like the one big thing is I've noticed that some meat eaters are very healthy. They do it in moderation. They don't eat meat every day. You know what I mean? They're not eating it all the time. And they're eating a whole bunch of plant foods that kind of like add into the diet that are whole foods, and then they're cutting down on processed foods. You could still be a very, very healthy person if that works for you. But I think where people really go wrong is with all of the fast food, the processed food, the things that aren't even really food. Because if you think about it, I saw some really interesting documentaries about, you know, things that we see in our grocery shelves, but half of the things on the grocery shelves are engineered in labs. Those things aren't even foods. There are literally scientists sitting around being like, okay, how can I make this cheese flavor so addictive that this person is going to have to come back
Right.
and eat some more? And they
Frankenstein food.
yes, and I was watching this documentary, and these scientists actually intentionally make things so that you want to, like, you don't feel satiated. You want to keep coming back. And when you compound that with the amounts of sugar and the amounts of salt that they put on everything to kind of mask the fact that it's not food, because if you had a real cracker without salt on it, I'm gonna tell you, it tastes like cardboard. But people don't realize that all you're tasting really is the salt and whatever flavor, that the chemical flavor they added to it. So it's about getting your body acclimated, because it takes people a moment sometimes to realize, okay, whoa, I'm not even eating real food. Maybe I should go, go get stuff that can come from the earth, get some whole grains, get this stuff. And it takes a moment for their palate to kind of readjust, because we're so over sugared, over salted, over floured in this country that it's just like, it's causing a lot of problems for people.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to focus on eating raw for a second, and because that's something you do in addition to just being vegan, hence the blog Raw Girl in a Toxic World. And
Yeah.
so, what are the benefits from eating raw? I guess. I mean, I know there are health benefits, but I mean, if you can kind of
Yeah.
help me out as far as understanding them.
Sure. I mean, there are so many. I can't, there were just so much science that I wanted to add into my book, and I added a lot of it, but there's just so much that I couldn't even get to, because there's also just so many testimonials of people who have healed themselves of everything from cancer to diabetes to high blood pressure on a raw diet. And I believe that it's more about the body finally getting fuel that's natural, so it allows it to just restabilize itself. I believe the
Hmm.
body can heal itself if it's given the right fuel. But if you keep putting acidic stuff, you keep putting processed stuff, you keep putting junk, it doesn't work. But for me, like, what I first experienced, I used to have really bad acne. So within a month of being raw, my skin had cleared up completely, and it was amazing. And then my energy kind of shot through the roof. Like, I started waking. I mean, I still wake up every single morning around 5:36, like, without an
Hmm.
alarm clock. I'm awake. I also do get enough sleep, so that
Right.
I'm not sleep deprived, but I noticed that it gives me more energy, and that I wake up naturally very early, and I'm like gearing to go, like ready to go.
Okay. And you said it
Um,
cleared your skin in a month?
yep, within a month,
Wow.
I know. I have a, like, my first book was the acne free diet, and the people who read it get to see the gross pictures of me, and I don't even, the pictures that I put in that book aren't even as bad as it was. They're like sort of like as it was starting to get better, but I had scarring on both cheeks. I had rash like acne all over my forehead, and within a month, I looked like this basically, and I've looked like this ever since.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and so basically, I just tried to break down for people that acne is an inside out game. And like, and most doctors, they always focus on, let's put a band-aid on this. So
Right.
let's give you some hormones, or let's give you this topical lotion, or let's give you this cream. And I just threw away all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I started to realize, you know what? It's about what is going on inside of me that's causing this external problem. So if I don't deal with the internal, I'm never going to deal with that. I'm going to keep putting all these things on the external, and maybe I'll get results for a couple months, but it's
Hmm.
not going to go away forever. And my goal was to, like, I don't want to deal with acne ever again. Like, it needs to be over. So that's what the book is about, and it's to help people, because I feel like a lot of people waste so much money on creams, lotions, pills, hormonal pills. It also mess a lot of women, that messes with their cycle, it messes with other things. And you don't need all of that
Yeah.
to deal with acne. And acne really is a warning sign for other problems, because where you get pimples on your face corresponds to also organs in your body. So once you start to understand that, you realize, okay, this is just trying to tell me something. It's trying to tell me something's off balance, or I'm eating things, or something is going on inside of me that's not right. So for me, the acne went, the energy increased, my creativity increased. It just gave me more fuel to do everything that I do. I think in general too, I don't know what it is about it, but plant-based diets in general, which is maybe why in India a lot of yogis are vegetarian, they kind of facilitate spiritual evolution. It really does sort of get you in a plane of kind of like, just, it enhances your, if you were on a spiritual journey, it enhances that spiritual journey and deepens it. There's something about the stillness of plant life. And even when I've worked with people in my family who, they came to me and they decided they were going to do a vegan thing for like a month or whatever. One of the things that they told me, the first thing they would tell me was like, I feel so much calmer. My thoughts are calmer. I don't have as much anxiety. And it's amazing. Most people don't even realize that, cool, the bag of chips may taste good, but the bag of chips actually may contribute to the fact that you're agitated right now. They may contribute to the fact that you have a breakout on your face. They may actually be contributing to the fact that you have these weird, like, anxiety, like these thoughts. Like, everything we take in, that whole saying, you are what you eat, really is true. And you start to really feel it. Because when you start eating plant-based foods, all of a sudden you're just like, whoa, like, I'm super calm. I'm able to deal with things. It really does affect your emotional state and mental state as well.
I know some people who need a plant-based diet. All right, so all right, the book, which is your third, is coming out in July 2015, and it's called well, is it Got Veg or Got Veg for veggies or
Got
Veg for
veg, yeah.
veg? Okay,
Got
Got
veg.
Veg: How to Thrive in a Plant-Based Diet.
Mhm.
So what do you want people to get out of reading the book?
Yeah, so I wrote the book like, it's kind of like the book that I wish was there when I started, because I kind of read a lot of different books and I never really felt like I got a comprehensive gist, I guess, of where to start and what to do. And what I tried to do is give you a ton of information of like, these are all the benefits. These are all the diseases that plant-based diets can cure. This is some research. This is some interesting information about that. And then I go into how to be optimal, which I feel like a lot of people just go, oh, you're vegan, you need B12, that's all. And I'm like, well, no. If you want to be optimally healthy, and that's anyone, that's meat eaters or plant, anyone's eating a plant-based diet, there are certain nutrients you have to pay attention to. We need B vitamins in order to keep our energy going during the metabolic process. There are certain things that we need just in general. So I go into a whole bunch of nutrients that you need to pay attention to, and also foods, whole foods that you can get them from. And then I start to just incorporate, like, how do I deal with this? How do I transition? What kinds of things do I need in my kitchen? How can I season stuff? Because people want stuff that tastes good, and
Right.
I think the funny part is that when I used to tell people I was a raw foodist, I think I really do believe they imagined me in my room crying and eating an apple, like, why? Like, why did I give up that meat stuff? Like, but really, that is not what was going on. I was out at these amazing places eating amazing food. I was at home preparing amazing food full of flavor that was guiltless because it didn't have any of the toxic stuff in it. And so I go through like the different substitutions you can use to make things season the way that you're used to having them, or like having
Right.
flavor in your food. And then I give people recipes because I like to always have an action plan or something for people to immediately apply that they can try. But the goal really is to inspire anybody. I'm not really like, oh, I want this book to be only for plant eaters. I hope there's a lot of meat eaters that read my blog and they've told me, I read your blog because I don't feel like you're judging me. And I don't judge anybody. I actually believe in bio-individuality. I think that our blood type and our ancestral lineage lends itself to a certain type of diet. For me, the plant-based diet works really well for my body.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I feel the best. But I think that everybody can benefit from more raw foods. Everybody can benefit from no processed foods, because we live in an age where cancer is so common, diabetes is so common. It's just, you know what I mean? And it's time for people to start realizing, hey, my doctor isn't really going to do anything but prescribe some pills to me. Perhaps I should take some matters in my own hand. Perhaps I should preventively spend more on this organic thing than pay for my doctor's copay. You know what I mean? So it's just, we got to change the way that we think about health. Health insurance to me is what I do. My lifestyle is my health insurance. You know, in the event of an accident, cool, that's great. I can go, handle that. But besides an accident, I don't expect to be contracting any sort of crazy disease if I have it within my power to control what I'm eating, control what I'm putting in my body temple.
Okay. Okay. Now you mentioned earlier that it's okay as far as eating meat. Just be mindful of where it comes from as far as make sure it's grass fed or organic or anything like that. So that's cool to know that you can use this in conjunction with, eating meat if that's the case. But
Yeah.
I'm just curious. How long has it been since you've had meat?
I haven't had meat since I was 13.
Okay. Okay. Since your teens. Okay.
Yeah, so a very long time, over 10 years I've been vegan. Yeah, and then I started on the raw thing in what, like 2008-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been a really long time for me. I don't really have any desire to eat meat. I really, for me, like when I first started, I didn't really exactly know why I was becoming vegan, and now like I understand all of the benefits, and then I've also started to be more conscious about animals and like the horrible ways that they are all the horrible things that happens to them in the meat industry that I really don't agree with. And I
Right.
believe that the energy in which that animal was, if an animal was treated badly and, mistreated and pumped with hormones, you're ingesting that. I believe that you're ingesting it when you consume that animal, and that's not something that I want to be a part of at all. So I definitely see myself as going with the vegan thing long term. If I ever had to make a dietary adjustment because of something else, I would consider it. But for me, I think I've found what works for my body. And
Okay.
that's kind of what I want to encourage people to do. Find what works for your body, but be conscious about it though. Be conscious about it, because you're ingesting when you're eating, animals that have been mistreated and abused, you're ingesting that, and you don't even know how it's affecting your emotional and spiritual state.
Okay. Okay. Now I know the book prepares people with the transition, I guess, into the vegan and eating raw lifestyle.
Hmm.
You have a bunch of recipes. I think it was over 50 recipes that you
Hmm.
offer in the book. So I think that's really cool. But I have another side question because my mind wanders over the course of an interview and everything. So let's talk about as far as your social life. Does this affect like who you date? If someone's like, "Hey, babe, I'm putting a steak on the stove," I mean, are you gonna,
Right.
how's that? What's the reaction like with that? Do you have to try to find someone who's at least similar to your lifestyle?
Right. Well, I'm not gonna really, I don't really like to tell people what's going on in my personal, like, dating life, but
Hmm.
I will say that I have dated both meat eaters and plant-based, you know. I find it pretty difficult to date a meat eater who's very closed-minded.
Okay.
Meaning, if the person understands where I'm at and they understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, they're also flexible and they're willing to explore that, then that might work. But if I'm sitting down at a table with somebody and they're like, "You're not gonna eat some chicken?" I mean, okay, like this is just not like we're not on the same page.
Right.
Like we're not
Right.
on the frequency. You know what I mean? It's really about an openness. I have another friend who is a vegan chef. His name is Allende Howell, and he is wrote a book a cookbook that's a relationship manifesto, and it's kind of about that. It's about like dating, you know, vegans dating non-vegans, and I
Okay.
think it's interesting, and it can be tough. It can be tough. It really depends on how the two people gel together and whether or not there's an understanding of where I'm coming from or there's flexibility. One of my, the woman who wrote the foreword for my book, she's actually one of my mentors, Victoria Moran. She's a vegan writer. She's written tons of books about veganism. And she married a meat eater who became later vegan because she converted him. So you know what I mean? Some people
Right.
see the light, you know what I mean? They start to they start to realize they feel better. They start eating your food and they're like, oh my goodness, like this is actually good.
Okay.
So, I think it's about openness on both sides. Like I generally don't, I don't really judge people. So as long as you're not judging me and expecting me to like, go with you to the steak joint, we might be okay. We might be all right.
Okay, okay. And another side question, less invasive. The outfit that you have on, did you design that?
This one, no.
Okay, okay,
This one, no. I wear a lot of stuff I design, but today, no.
okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
All right, so Got Veg, How to Thrive in a Plant-Based Diet is available for pre-orders now.
Mhm.
Where can people pre-order the book, and how can my listeners find and get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can pre-order the book on my blog. It's rawgirltoxicworld.com, and I believe the link is rawgirltoxicworld.com/pre-orders. But if they go to the blog, they'll see the book and they can just click on it, and it'll give you information about the book, and you can decide to pre-order there. And you can find me all over the place. I'm on Instagram at The Raw Girl. I'm on Facebook at The Raw Girl, Twitter at The Raw Girl. And then on the acting side, I have multiple personalities, by the way, if you haven't noticed. On the acting side, I'm at Esosa E on Twitter, and my Facebook on page as an actress is facebook.com/Esosa updates.
Okay.
So I have two Facebook pages, one for Raw Girl, one for acting stuff.
Okay, well, the best actors have multiple personalities, I guess. If you're going to be a good actor, you have to be someone else at times, right?
I guess so.
So, okay, Esosa E, thank you so much for joining the show. I
You
appreciate you
too.
taking the time to do it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and one more thing. I actually
Yeah.
forgot to, I actually skipped my very first question.
Oh, what was
Um,
that?
Esosa, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm awesome today, actually.
Okay,
How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Awesome.
All right, thank you for that. Really honored to speak with you.
Oh, thank.
Um, I think what you've done as far as trying to help um, just people in general, but I really like how it's going to benefit black people. I mean, they see a beautiful sister who talks about how she overcame, skincare issues and got into this lifestyle that has just done wonders for her as far as like you said, emotionally, physically, and even giving you like that boost of energy that we try to artificially grab with a Red Bull,
Right,
things
right,
that we don't actually need. So
right.
I think it's great. I appreciate the information you gave to the young actress out there who's aspiring. And
Awesome.
like I said, hopefully we can maybe reconnect in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great. I really appreciate you having me. I'm still just trying to get ready to go to Ghana, so I'm like packing and stuff. And it feels like
Hmm.
a marathon because I'm leaving not this weekend, but the weekend after. But it feels like, oh no, I have so many things to do before I have to go. Yeah.
And I can only imagine packing for an overseas trip. You have to take so
Oh,
much, and
love.
you can't
Yeah.
forget anything. And
Yeah.
my brother went to he went to Israel a couple of weeks ago,
Oh, nice.
and so
That,
that was his first overseas trip. I'm sorry.
did he like Israel?
He enjoyed it. He went to Israel, Turkey. I can't think of. He went to like four different countries. He and his
Okay.
wife, and
Okay.
they really enjoyed it. Just the experience, seeing a lot of the things, some of the history, especially as from a biblical perspective, and they had a great time. It was his first overseas trip, and he talked about how he didn't want to forget anything at home, because once you're overseas, that's it.
It's over.
I don't know if they
Right.
have Walmarts in Israel or not. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but
It could be, and then the brands are all different. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So you don't even know what's what. It's really
exactly.
tough. It can be rough sometimes. So you got to take all kinds. I like pack a whole bag of just snacks, like just like snacks that I know and like, so that
Hmm.
I have them on set. So
Right.
it was an ordeal. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you. And
Likewise.
like I said, enjoy your holiday weekend.
All right. You too. Bye.
All right. Goodbye.